Once you're back on that road, you find out that it's well lit, easy going, like walking on the sand right at the edge of the seashore, nice and cool with the water lapping at your feet, good and firm but yet soft. Yeah, that's what that road's like. And pretty soon you get to liking that road. You're finding out that the lies that the world has for you are really lies. You don't need all the things that you thought you did. You don't need to live that way at all. You can live the way that following Christ, and it's abundant. There's a wonderful, having Him be your provider is just a wonderful way to live. That's my personal experience. And so I can say it, because it has been for me. You got to give it a try. It might be for you. That's what Buddha said. Buddha said, the last thing he said before he died was, hey, don't make this into a religion. You know, I found a way. It worked for me. Try it. It might work for you. Next thing you know, 300 years later, it's a religion. You think the Buddhists today are doing what Buddha did? Buddha gave up. He was a royalty. He gave up his throne to go live in the mud, to see what life was all about. He didn't know what life was about, living as the elite. He found a way that worked for him. Only all these movie stars that are turning Buddhists now. They giving up everything? They following Buddha? I don't know. I'm following Christ because I like His message. His message is love. His message is eternal. He proved in history that God is in control. We have prophecy, the more sure word of prophecy, Peter said. We don't have to go to the stars anymore and read the story up there that God put in it. We have the more sure word of prophecy. We have it fulfilled all the way to today about the Jews in Jerusalem. And part of that was the coming of Christ, and He came. The Jews rejected Him. He came to His own received Him not. So through Paul, Benjamite Jew, Roman citizen, and second most knowledgeable man on the Jewish law at the time, brought you the teaching about salvation. And that message, that simple, beautiful message about salvation that's told in this book, these letters that Paul wrote, are just fantastic because they're so simple. It's so easy to do. It's so hard to keep, but easy to do. It is not hard to go call on God, to go cast your cares on Him. You know what's hard to do? It's hard to love. Hard to love your neighbor like you love yourself. It's hard to do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. See, if you loved your neighbor, then you wouldn't kill him or steal from him or lie to him or cheat him. Steal his wife. You wouldn't do any of those things. So you're pretty safe on the commandments because He changed it to one commandment. Just love God above all things. Love your neighbor like you love yourself. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And remember me, He says, for who I am. I'm the unleavened one. Remember? This is my body, unleavened bread. No corruption, no evil. Feast on that. Immerse yourself in no corruption, no evil, so some of it rubs off on you. So now, back to Thessalonians. Let no man deceive you. Don't let any man do that to you. Don't let the traditions of men make void the word of God. Listen to what he has to say. This is the second letter. The first letter explained it all. This letter confirms it. For that day shall not come except there be a departure first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Departure first, then that man of sin be revealed. Now, when you understand from Revelation that the man of sin doesn't happen until after the first 3.5 years, because the man of sin is the beast that comes out of the pit, the former prince of Grecia, who was Alexander's spiritual ruler of that time. That's part of the Daniel study. It's already all done, folks. Just go to Daniel's classes and listen to it all. It's all put on the podcast now, too. This just all dovetails perfectly because God is true. He is the truth. He is the light. It's very hard to find that in religion, but in the Word, it's there. And its simplicity in its utmost. And I can understand why. He's talking to people. Boy, anything more simpleton than us on this earth. And then God's got to be talking to us. A God who knows everything is talking to us simpletons. He's got to make it simple. And if you keep it simple, you're going to live a lot longer and a lot happier having the abundance of Christ in your heart than you are of worry about everything, because you don't go take them to the Lord and drop them off there and let Him handle that for you, because that's what He says. And that's not a crutch. That's a way of life. Accepting the provision of the Lord, recognizing that it comes from Him, asking Him for it, casting your cares on Him, everything that you want to get rid of. He said He came to open the doors of the prisons that bind you. Well, what are the prisons that bind you? Open those doors. He's there for opening those doors. I mean, come on. If you don't understand His promises, go back and learn them. They're yours to claim. Not just, oh, I love you, Jesus. That's so trite as compared to the depth, the depth of the reality of Jesus and what He did and what eternity is all about. That is not trite. And you shouldn't be handling it like that. It's a personal matter, a personal relationship. If you handled your personal relationships like the church handles the relationship with Christ, man, oh man, oh man, you'd be divorced in a minute. Back to 2 Thessalonians. He's saying there has to be a departure first. Before that man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, son of evil deeds. Perdition is evil deeds. Now here's who he is and what he does. He opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Showing himself that he is God. Not showing anybody else, just showing it to himself. He wants everybody to believe he's God, so he shows it to himself. Here I am, I'm God. I mean, you know who else did this? Constantine did this. He didn't go to the temple and do it, but he told them, I'm God. He said to the Nicene Council, who were arguing about religion, then, 325, they were arguing about religion. The Muslims hadn't even come along yet. They didn't come along until 625. But in 325, they were arguing among themselves. Constantine said, listen, I'm tired of the arguments. I don't persecute you people, but I'm going to. And I can see why they do. He said, but you have your God. And that God you say is a man and a God. And they said, yes. He says, okay, I'll buy that because I'm a man and I'm a God. Now you recognize that and you can have your church. A few years later at the Second Nicene Creed, they had to have it. He took it over because they were still arguing. So he put a Roman in charge of it, made him the Bishop of Rome. That guy assumed all kinds of power and became a pope. You have the guy's name and the day it started. And yet they want to go all the way back to Peter and it didn't even begin till 389. So, I'm not here to argue denominational religion. I don't argue about religion. I could never win an argument about religion because I'm not one of the religious, and so therefore you're right about your religion. No, I admit that. I bow to that. Your religion says you got to do certain thing, keep a certain doctrine, do certain stuff. Okay, you better do it then. You're going to belong to it. Otherwise, why belong to it? Jesus said, understand that you're the tabernacle of the Lord, carrying around his heart, and that your mind is the high priest of the tabernacle. Live accordingly. And you got free will, do whatever you want, but live accordingly, and you'll have a more abundant life. Decide not to live accordingly, and who knows what's going to happen to you. I mean, God says, you got free will, do what you want, go where you want. Wind up where you want. It's your choice. Back to Thessalonians. So that he is God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Now he brings back the other letter, and when he was with them. He says, remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things? See, he had already taught these things to them. They just weren't sure in their mind. And after all, he was only there with them a month. He'd only written them one other letter since then. They had some questions. They had some people who died. They had other people who were joining. These people say what? You're going where? See what I mean? So he says, remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things? And now you know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. Oh. He can't be revealed until there's a departure first. That's what he said, right? Falling away, but the word hasn't equally, and there are other Bibles that use use departure. King James decided to use falling away, but it doesn't make any sense to the context of the rest of the text. So departure is the word. So he says, now you know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth, an English word meaning restrain, he who now restrains will restrain until he be taken out of the way. The gathering together. Not the gathering together. He, why he? Because the individual. The individual, ecclesia, he, the mystery of iniquity is already at work. Only he, the ecclesia, who now restrains it, will restrain until he's taken out of the way. Raptured, gathered together, caught away.